Your love with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to love, and the way you look tonight, with each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart, and that laugh that wrinkles your nose, it touches my foolish heart. Lovely, never ever change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. With each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fears apart, and that laugh that wrinkles your nose.
Welcome back to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, aka Guide Live B2B Jam Session. Hope you've had your morning tea today after that crazy day that we had as far as election day yesterday. You know, no matter who you voted for, I hope you voted, and I hope you're having a phenomenal day so far. And more importantly, that you've gotten your cup of big black tea in your cup, and right now you're sipping. You know, super excited today because one, I see today is one of probably the most happiest days of my life. And that's because I actually have an amazing guest on the show. I'm super excited to dive deep on and talk to him a little bit about the future of work, his experiences building one of the most amazing companies in this space, and then more importantly, his thoughts on where the future is going and what he's seeing on the ground now in his role as the CEO, founder, and chairman of, you guys ready for this? I hope you're excited for this, Alliance Virtual Offices. And if you haven't heard of them, you're sleeping under a rock because they have been around and building for the last 13 years now. And, you know, that's just one of the things that this amazing man has going on. So today I'm talking with, and you got to check him out. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Twitter. I'm talking with the founder and CEO of the Alliance Group of companies, not one company, of companies, an experienced speaker. He should be called Mr. Future of Work, strategist, entrepreneur, advisor, business leader, and investor, Mr. Frank Cottle. And we're really going to be diving deep. You know, I've had conversations with Frank before on his thoughts and his insight on what he sees going on, how organizations can adapt. But most importantly, what does this mean for the human spirit and how we should adapt in terms of new models forming around work? You know, since 1979, Frank has been in this space, really building a really amazing future and vision. And you see that with a lot of the work that he's done with the Alliance Group. So we're going to dive deep on his founder story, what inspired him to start the company, but also more importantly, where does he see the future of work going? And what can organizational leaders really kind of latch onto right now to make sure they're not building an organization based on yesterday's models, and they're building an organization for today's model. With that said, let's go ahead and bring on Frank onto the show. Hey, Frank.
Hey, Tim, how are you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm just grateful to be alive, man.
Well, I think that's something we're all grateful for.
Yeah. Let me show love to our amazing audience right now that's tuning in. Shout out to Mr. Lawrence, and shout out to my homie Tyler Durden, who's saying good afternoon to him. Tyler, good afternoon to you, man. Hopefully you voted, and hopefully you're taking care of yourself, man. So happy to see you on the show today. Shout out to Lawrence, my great homie Lawrence, who's my Facebook friend. Lawrence, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. Frank, man, such an honor to have you on the show. First of all, thank you for wanting to be on the show. I literally, when I heard that you wanted to be on the show, I was so grateful and so excited because you're one of the leaders in this space. But I want you to kind of dissect a little bit how long you've been in this space, because you've been in this space for quite some time, since 1979 now. What inspired the Alliance Group?
Well, I think we have been in the flexible workspace sector since 1979. We actually started as a property company back then.
Wow.
Building purpose-built buildings to host and house what were then called executive suites. We built those buildings all across the southwestern United States between 80 and 90, and then we sold that portfolio. And that's really where we learned to think and consider. We started that enterprise with a very strong technology bent, even though we were a property company. And we put together joint ventures with Bell Labs, creating the first transmission of voice and data simultaneously over 4-pair twisted cable using touchscreen equipment back in the early 80s. We pioneered the commercial installations of ISDN with GTE at the same time. So we've always led with technology. And today, the Alliance Group of companies, we no longer operate facilities anymore. We are a pure software as a service technology-based company that delivers our services through a variety of platforms around the world.
Yeah. So you guys switched from kind of on-premise, just physical-based solutions to kind of going to where the cloud is going, right? And then adapting your business towards building
we did. Between 90 and 2000, myself and two other partners built a large operating company. We didn't build the buildings then because I'd already done that. We just built what was then the largest privately held business center operating company in the world.
Wow.
And we sold that out right at the height of the dot-com boom, so a good time to sell things. You know, I come from a little farming and ranching family, so as they say, it's better to be lucky than smart.
Yeah.
Smart doesn't make it rain.
Yeah.
So we sold, and the reason I wanted to sell is I was looking at technology, I was looking at things, and had invested in and bought a couple of tech companies back then. One of which I sold to Microsoft, and one of which I ended up selling to the Lufthansa Group. But the interest, in my point of view, was to expand service capacity and to basically own the customer instead of owning the centers. And other models like that were emerging. I think a good example of that on a large scale in the travel industry would be Expedia.
Yeah.
Expedia doesn't own any hotels. They don't own any airplanes, but they own the customer. And so we have built a real estate structure based around owning the customer. And then we have joint venture and wholesale agreements with facility operators all over the world.
Yeah.
We operate right now in 54 countries. So, you know, we kind of get out and about in our business, and it's a lot of fun. It really is, because we can react faster. If you're facility based, it's hard to react quickly. Everything's 10-year leases and 30-year mortgages and things of that nature. It takes a year just to build the facility, generally. And when we see a change, and this comes to all the discussion around agile companies, we can make a change in 30 to 90 days. We can change the whole direction of the company that fast if we need to. And our current pandemic is a good example of that. We took our entire company in mid-February, before announcements were here in the U.S. We took the entire company remote and virtual, and we did it all in 48 hours.
Wow.
And we had call centers in Europe, call centers in the UK, here in the US, but we had pre-built the technology to go virtual because we knew at some point, for some reason, we would need to do so or want to do so. Economic reasons, a recession. We never expected the pandemic to have the reaction that we've seen pandemics before, but we never saw this sort of governmental global reaction before. So, we were just prepared. And I think that's part of the future of work is that technology allows you to pre-think scenarios and to be able to react more quickly to service your customers and to make sure that your teams are safe and that your company stays productive.
Yeah, that's powerful, Frank. Let me ask you, because there's a few things I want to dissect with that I think you're exactly the man to talk to about this, especially for our viewers who are watching. Much love to Mr. Ahmed, who's saying hi, Tim and Frank. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for joining us today in this powerful conversation with Mr. Frank Cottle. One of the things that you mentioned is the fact that you all were able to be agile enough to transition and adapt during this pandemic. Let me ask you, what's your framework on how organizations should think about transition planning in times like this? How do you go about doing that with you and your organizations?
Well, I'll paraphrase Yoda from Star Wars. Don't plan.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. And let's take remote work as an example of that. We advise and consult with a lot of very large companies on a global basis. And from about 2018 and all through 2019, every major company in the world was putting together a remote work plan. And it wasn't because of the pandemic, it's because they had determined, their human resources departments determined that they couldn't attract talent to their company unless they had one. They couldn't hire the right people, the right engineers for technology companies, et cetera, unless you had a good remote work plan that allowed people to work in the office, out of the office, from home, near the home, et cetera. So they all were putting together these magic plans. And they took years to put these together. And then pandemic came, and instead of stepping over the threshold to these plans, they got kicked in the rear, jumped over the threshold. And then 30 days later, they said, "Oh, this works. Yeah. My goodness, we didn't really do the plan. We just sent everybody home, and it works." And you can just imagine the CFO walking around any Fortune 1000 company today, especially in the UK, which is going through another serious lockdown, total lockdown. Yeah. Looking at the office space, the empty office space, sort of a hollow sound as they walk across the floor, looking around and saying, "There's nobody here." Yeah. But the company's doing just fine. We don't need all this stuff. And so I think one of the outcomes of this pandemic that will reflect in the future of work, we're going to see a lot of adjustment in fixed asset holdings for large companies. And that means we're going to see a lot of repurposing of real estate. Because location now means being on a bike path instead of a metro path. It really does. We've seen a huge migration from central business district markets to secondary and tertiary markets. Wow. Huge migration of companies, of individuals within companies. And the issue is, and take London as a good example, the London Transport Department is only operating at 15% efficiency right now. 15%. That's the maximum they can operate and have social distancing. Yeah. Okay. So the issue isn't for people, I don't want to be, I'm not afraid of being in a nice, clean office with my peers and properly distanced and taking care of things right now. I just don't want to get on that stinky, dirty train to get there. Yeah. So the central business district cities, Manhattan, a good example, London's a good example, where people commute into the city to work and then back to home. That's going to stop. That's going to be but that's going to be a huge change in the way we work. People will live in the city and work in the city, or live in the suburbs and work in the suburbs, be connected to the city. we're seeing all sorts of things like that happening all over the world.
Wow. Wow. So in this element, I love that you're talking about this, because this kind of touches on how the future of work really overlaps with the future of living fundamentally. And one of the things that you shared with me is that you're already seeing kind of, even within your organizations, new routines being formed by your people, and they're embracing kind of this new mode of work. Can you share a little bit more about what you're seeing within the Alliance group of companies?
Well, we in late June or July, we had an outside company come in and do a survey and a study of our own employees.
Yeah.
Satisfaction with work, efficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. And it was very comprehensively done. And we found that 83% of everyone in our organization globally felt that they had been more productive and had a better work-life balance as a result of our remote work structure overall. And when we look at our numbers, the productivity and the numbers in our company, we see the corresponding benefits. We've seen nice rises, consistent rises in productivity all across the board. Everything from sales and marketing and service, everything is just running better. And today, probably half of our people are back in the office by choice. We have a policy that says it's up to you. And just because we have the tech and we're set up for it. So it's very easy for us, much so than for many others. And what I think this is going to end up with, and let's go back to the central city, of the future of work affecting the future of cities and the future of life in general, but cities in particular, the cities that are fed by a large contingent of people coming in and out of the city to work. As that diminishes as a result of technology, virtual reality officing, which we can discuss in a minute if you like, and a variety of other things, the property, the buildings in those cities will have to be repurposed. And when I look across the board, I was speaking with the head of global strategy for Google the other day, and he was saying that on all of their upcoming leases, they're renewing about between 50 and 60% of the space.
Wow.
That's all. So take a simple scenario. Let's assume everybody in New York works from home 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Real simple scenario. That's a 20% vacancy factor of office space.
Yeah.
2 days a week. That's a 40% vacancy factor in office space. You just don't need it. Okay, so as these changes are made, space will get repurposed, and those buildings that are now large office buildings will become more mixed-use buildings. Retail shopping on the first floor to office space on the next 10 or 20 or 30 floors, and then residential on top. That model has been around since the live-work model has been around since probably the time of the Romans and the Greeks, where you had your store down on the bottom or your service down on the bottom, and you lived above the store.
Yeah.
We've seen that for thousands of years as a model. Well, we're going to go back to that, and that will reduce the cost of living within the cities and reduce the need for transit, which helps all of our pollution and things of that nature. So the people that work in the city will be more people that live in the city, and that will generate a whole different level of energy, because you've heard about cities who roll up their sidewalks when everybody goes home. Dallas was like that for years. Downtown Dallas was a ghost town at 6 o'clock.
It's true.
There was nobody there, and everybody went home, right?
Yeah.
And that happens in large cities like Manhattan. But if you repurposed 20% of the real estate, let's say, into residential, that would be a huge impact on a 24-hour city as opposed to a 12-hour city. And that brings a different dynamic together entirely. So many of these things that we'll see as a result of change, technology, where we got kicked into making those changes. Instead of doing them slowly, we'll be doing them more quickly. So the pandemic will be an accelerant to all of these changes.
It's so funny because right by where I live in Oakland, there's a live work space literally right down the corner. And it's funny because you're seeing these new models arise literally right in front of your eyes. I want to ask you, Frank, what are you kind of excited about when in terms of the transitions that we're seeing, things that, cities and governments are seeing, because you're looking at this from a global viewpoint and you're giving your role at Alliance. What are you really excited about?
I'm excited about holographic technology and the different types of meeting room structures that will arise as a result of it. I'm very excited about virtual reality officing. From a practical point of view, in 3 to 5 years, 3 years, 5 years for sure, probably 3 years. So we're going to see more virtual reality officing. So instead of let's go back to that scenario. Let's pick on Manhattan again. In Manhattan, if I want to have a beautiful office overlooking Central Park on a nice corner of a building with a great view, that's really expensive. Really expensive. And that if in order to justify my own office there, I have to justify my whole company being there. So that's even more expensive. I can put on a headset right now or some smart glasses, and I can basically visualize any office in any place in the world that I want.
Yeah.
I can have all my files. I can have all the tools I would have in the office. So the concept of location, as I said, is changing. The location will be the software that you buy, that you slip on in your cube, if you will, that will give you all the amenities, all the benefits as if you had a large private office. And you'll be isolated in it, but people will be able to come and go from it as well on a not on a physical basis, but on an image basis. And we're starting to see that. And some of the big drivers aren't necessarily who you would expect. And I'll ask who has the biggest community of followers in the world?
In terms of companies or people?
Anybody.
I would say, what about Gary Vee?
Fortnite.
Wow.
The video gaming people. At any moment in time on some of the large games, there's 6 to 8 million people at one time playing this game. But guess what? They're getting older. Gen Z, the gaming generation, if you will, is growing up. And so if I'm a gaming company and I know that my typical client was on my game for 2 hours or 3 hours a day, but now has finished college and getting a job and they're only on 1 hour a day, I need to get that market share back. So who are the best people at rendering images as real life images? The gaming companies. Who do you think is exploring building virtual reality offices right now in the same mode that they built gaming so that they can recapture the hours of eyeball use from the aging Gen Z population?
Minecraft. Gaming company. So you're seeing kind of like immersive virtual reality based spaces in these cities as a way, or even in the areas where colleges are, as a way to engage that demographic still as they
exactly. And a co-working center in the future, or a business center, or even an office building in the future will have a software component they sell along with their facility component. And your ability then again to compress people because they aren't aware of physical space anymore. They're only aware of their virtual reality space, allows higher density, which also means that you have more space for repurposing.
Wow.
So it's a whole variety of things. This is a whole way to re-energize neighborhood. To get in Manhattan, I can give somebody the same quality of an office in Brooklyn or the Bronx as I can give them facing Central Park.
Wow.
Okay, so repurposing areas that wouldn't be necessarily as desirable and rebuilding the density in those areas also will come as a result of this technology. And cities will be delivering bandwidth like they deliver water and air and everything else. Bandwidth is becoming a virtual right. It
is 5G tech.
Without bandwidth, we cannot breathe. We cannot function anymore.
It's true.
we're going to see a lot of shifting around that. We've already seen shifting around that with cities having their own bandwidth programs and things of that nature.
It's very true. I want to ask you, Frank, because I think for the people who are listening and tuning in right now, I mean, you dropped so many gems with us and you've shared so many gems with us. What would be your powerful takeaway for that leader right now who's thinking about, how do I level up? How do I go about kind of leading a remote workforce in today's day and age, especially given everything that's going on, not only in business, but also socio-politically as well?
Well, it's funny. I think if you're going to build a company, you need to start with 2 or 3 core philosophies that you're going to build around and upon. And you might pivot your products, you might pivot, different elements of what you do, your technologies, but you shouldn't ever pivot your philosophies. So if you're going to build a remote workforce, you have to have a philosophy of management and a philosophy of long-term that will give your company guidance and in all of their decision making. For our company, it's we have two primary pieces of philosophy. One says members first. So we refer to our clients as members, and so we don't make a decision without challenging ourselves on any decision we make. Is this what's best for the member? Is this what's best for the member? If it is, then we proceed to go down that path. If we say, well, it's really good for us, but the members, they'll never know. They won't care. No, if it's not best for the member, we don't want to do it. And the other thing, and this goes with the remote work philosophy, is build a company around an internal philosophy as well. And ours is family first. So if a person has a challenge, a personal challenge, or needs something, or just needs some time off, or maybe they're new kids, whatever, it's our obligation to make sure that they are capable of dealing with their family issues first. The business will survive if somebody takes some time off. The business will survive if we give people what they need. I don't worry about that. If we don't, though, it won't survive. So that's part of our remote work philosophy, and always has been, is that make sure that our work structure fits the family structure. And a good example is our own executive team. It's a global team. We've never asked a single executive to ever move to a corporate headquarters location.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, and our thing is, well, why would I want to I'll take our head of marketing globally. He's based in Lexington, Kentucky. That's where he lives. He likes farms and horse ranches. That's where his kids are. That's where his life is. If I had to transport him to Newport Beach in California, he'd have to live in a condo. He would be very unhappy. It would be very costly for me. I'd have to, pay him a lot more to be unhappy.
That would be crazy, right?
He'd still be unhappy. So again, as companies start thinking about remote work programs and, all of these things, if they think about the employee or the family of the employee first, then they can end up the technology is easy. It's the philosophies and sticking to the philosophies that's hard.
Yeah, Frank, I love that, because one of my personal philosophies, and we've adapted it here at Guide as we kind of grow and sustain our venture, is that I love that family first philosophy, but also really thinking from a community standpoint of like, how do people want to live? Psychology and sciences and behavioral sciences, as well as studies, have shown that people live better where they want to live, with family, where they have where they feel nested, they thrive more. And, this whole notion of being member first is something that I believe in and I agree with. And it's really great to see leaders such as yourself who really adapted within their organizations. Frank, it's been a pleasure having you on, man. If you are tuning in right now, listening right now to Frank Cottle and I, please definitely check out what the Alliance group of companies are doing. Frank, where can the amazing people who are part of our Guide community continue following you and Alliance's movement?
Well, I'll give you 2 websites. First would be for our business would be alliancevirtualoffices.com. It's alliancevirtualoffices.com. Secondly, if you just want to focus on future of work and you just want to understand flexibility in the workplace, remote work, everything to do with the future of work and flexibility in the workplace, log into allwork.space. Allwork.space. Excuse me. Not as an industry-wide or a global publication. Excuse me. You warned me about the water.
You gotta have that water.
I'm sorry. Where you can learn everything that's needed about the industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Frank. Appreciate you, man. And please continue being great and leading an amazing movement. And hopefully we can have you back on the show.
Look forward to it. Take care, Tim.
Frank. Appreciate you, man. Shout out to Mr. Frank Cottle for joining us today on today's episode of Guy Live B2B Jam Session. Please make sure to check out the links that I've dropped in the panel, allwork.space, as well as alliancevirtualoffices.com. You know, there's very few leaders who are in the future workspace or who are technology and business leaders who really know the space better than Frank. He's been in it for years. So he's a world of wisdom to learn from if you're building a remote company or if you're trying to think about how do you transition given where the world currently is and where the world is going. With that said, hopefully you've gotten your tea, bigblacktea.com. We are selling out every single day. And we continue to just grow and scale every single day as well. And shout out to our guide community. In fact, I actually had one of our amazing guide community members reach out to me and show me a picture of a tea set of teacups that she's actually bought just because she's excited for her pre-orders of Big Black Tea. So I always love seeing amazing news and getting amazing messages such as that. So feel free to hit me up in my DMs, whether it be on Twitter or LinkedIn, anytime. And let me know, are you excited about Big Black Tea? But more importantly, are you excited about the movement that we're leading with Guy? If you're interested in being an early adopter or a creator, we continue to grow our base of creators. We actually have creators who are part of our community right now that we just enlisted, and we're looking for more amazing creators. Please check out guideapp.co. Literally, it's up here, right here, guideapp.co, right here. Check it out. Be a part of our early beta, be a part of our movement with us. And if anything, most importantly, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell their boss about the Guy team and the Guy movement. All right, y'all. If you are in the building in Oakland, much love. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Hopefully you made time to go vote yesterday and do your thing because voting is important. It's key. It's critical. Exercise your rights and your optionality. And by the way, make sure you're taking care of your holistic health as well. In fact, I recently got a Me Band because I've been so mindful of, one, how often I'm walking and making sure that holistically I'm 100%. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am going to cap you all out to a really good one, but I think mostly everyone should know if you love jazz or if you love music in general. Mr. Michael Bublé, Feeling Good.
Good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, that's what I mean. And this whole world is a new world, and a full world for me. Above me. scent of the pine. You know how I feel. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I feel so good. I feel so good.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak. And I seem to find the happiness I see when we out together, dancing cheek to cheek.
This is not our relationship.
Yes, heaven.